This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we sit down, I'd like to have a moment of silence for our country, the anarchy that's going on.
To move Joel up the list since he's here?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so is there any public comments? Anybody out there that has, let's see, any chat box? All right, with that, I'll move on to administrative business, actually the COVID-19 updates.
Okay, COVID-19 updates.
Deidre?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, there are currently no cases in Marion County. Keep in mind that the map is updated Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I will continue to send out releases if we have any lab confirmed cases. Last week, Wednesday, I met with Tabor College and USD 410 and also the city of Hillsborough was at that meeting, and Tabor basically wanted to get some input on reopening in the fall. I have been working with other schools within the county on activities such as graduation, driver's ed, summer, and the summer sports programs. And I've been very pleased with many of the plans that they had presented to me and their flexibility in tweaking those plans. The calls, emails, and texts, which I'm sure many of you have been getting from businesses and other facilities, including the religious entities, they have been all very good. I felt like they come with a plan and how they're going to do it, and then if I give them some suggestions, they tend to tweak their plans. I did also get an email from Brandy from the Fair Board. I think that's her name. Anyway, I gave her some suggestions, but I think, since the fair is a county event, maybe the County Board of Health should actually be involved in assisting with their plans. As we discussed last week, the Board of Health has joint powers also under the public health statutes. So any of your thoughts, have you been involved in that?
Yeah, I've been trying to fill in, or at least get some support to fill in some days where they lack some events. And I've been talking to them about their protocol at the gate, I guess. What I would figure they'd need to do at the bare minimum. I'm sure you've done the same.
Yeah. But technically, it's kind of a hard thing because they probably, being outside, I think, helps. I don't know how they could do, like, if they're planning now the grandstands, I'm thinking the rodeo is still canceled, but I don't know. I know there are rodeos that may be taking place in other areas.
There's a lot of sanctioned rodeos that are not doing anything this year. That's part of the deal. We're kind of looking for ranch rodeos. local hometown heroes to, I think it'd be a good thing that, on that, but.
I know there's a local stock contractor and he has none.
So I think that could, be a possibility if they work out the logistics of the grandstands and like you said, the ticketing, the waiting in line, that kind of thing. So that will continue, and it's good that that the fair is, toward the end of July. So. I just want to remind everyone that COVID-19 is still out there, and just remember that as things are opening up, you don't let your guard down. Secretary Dr. Lee Norman is still encouraging individuals to follow the governor's ad-asterisk plan and continue in phase 2 with mass gatherings of 15 and not increase the gathering size until June the 8th, when that goes up to 48, and through all the phases, social distancing is recommended. I've told many people who have called and emailed that is no longer enforceable, but it is suggested. So it is basically up to individuals as employees, employers, and residents of Marion County to continue to follow those to the best of their abilities. One thing that I stress is staying home when you're sick and continuing to practice social distancing, washing your hands, wearing a mask when in public, and encouraging high-risk individuals to stay home and limit their travel to their essential needs, or definitely wear a mask out in public. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, Deidre, this is Randy. I don't know whether just FYI, the Peabody Fourth Festival is not gonna have any ground displays, but it sounds like they're gonna have aerial displays. So that's what they come up with yesterday, I believe. I haven't seen it posted, but I had somebody text me that that's what was going on. Just for your FYI.
Okay.
And this is Diane, I'm glad to hear that, because I really think that we need to start even getting our festivals. Everybody is postponing or canceling these festivals for months down the road, and we need to get these festivals and get people to enjoy coming to Marion again. And so I think we should encourage them to have the festivals, and I noticed that the protesters are not displaying social distancing, and wonder how many statistics of COVID-19 we'll get from that. Probably none. But I'm just saying, I really think that we need to get these festivals going back. We look forward to them, and it would really boost our communities and people to come.
Yeah, people with their personal responsibility will choose whether to go or not. So.
Exactly, and I can't, what? If you're sick, stay at home. We learned that in first grade. I mean, that's definitely personal responsibility. If you're sick, stay at home.
And if you look at even the governor's plan, the phase out was June 22nd. So, July 4th would fit her plan. I would encourage as people start moving just to kind of keep a journal of your movement, just if not mentally on paper, about where you've been, kind of the general date, time, and location. That way, if you do get contacted as a possible contact, we can the tracing is a little bit easier for us and also easier for you all. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for Deidre? Okay, thank you, Deidre. Randy, Frank? You want?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
This week I'll be working with the Kansas Division of Emergency Management in their emergency support function number 7, which is logistics. We'll be coordinating the deliveries of the emergency food assistance program here in the county. This is a program that was launched at the beginning of the COVID events. Since this all began, the Kansas Army National Guard is who's working and putting these meals together, and they've actually made over 2 million meals in the last couple of months and delivered throughout Kansas. This is a first come, first served basis. We will be at all of the communities within our county on different days. The schedule has been sent out to the media. I sent an email to Cherry so she can put it on the webpage, and to all the cities on what day we will be there with the meals and the times. So that's the big project for this week. I'm also working with Kansas food banks for additional deliveries into the food banks that we have here within our county.
Randy?
Yes, sir.
On these meals that they're delivering, is it limited to a number of meals already packaged, or what are they delivering?
Well, these are, I'm not sure exactly what the meals are. They're pre-made and packaged. It's a first come, first served. You can take what you need. It's curbside pickup. There's no proof of income required, and just show up and they'll give you what you ask for.
Okay, thank you.
They're all, everything's just in a box. They just give you a box.
Okay.
They don't even open it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you, Randy. Administrative business.
Okay, on the administrative business, I have the minutes. You had 3 sets of minutes in your packet for the 26th, 27th, and 29th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 26th if there's no discussion.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Who was the second? Was it you? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 27th.
Second.
Second by Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 29th.
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All right.
Randy, would you want to pass these 3 pages down?
Get your pen ready, sir.
Okay. Thanks.
I got something set.
I did hear from Brad. He will be coming to the meeting here shortly, 9:30 or 10. And I didn't have any other administrative business.
Okay. Move on. Is Joel Enzi out there, county attorney? Or county?
Yeah, let's see what you-
Just leave
No.
Where we stand now.
Yeah, for now, just be careful because that microphone's not attached.
Won't get too animated. Okay, so here to just do a brief update on where we're at, and then also talk about our part-time position and just kind of give an update there. We're about at the same criminal filings, I think, is where we were last year. Might be up a little bit. I think we're around the 130s at this point in time. Some of our sinks and juveniles are down. Juveniles, we're doing what's called an immediate intervention program, where we send them, instead of having them go up to court, we send them to probation, so stuff's not even filed. It's a pre-charging diversion type of program. Tries to keep kids out of the courtroom. Studies show that more contact that you have with the courtroom, a lot of times it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to be back there again. If you can try to limit that and maybe just cut it off at the one stupid mistake when you're a juvenile, then you may not have problems with it as a juvenile again or as an adult. So that's kind of a little bit of different things that we're doing this year. I think the IFP program is a good program for juveniles and for Marion County for the kids in our community. Does anybody have any questions about any of those things before we move on?
I got a question when you get done.
Okay, and then moving on to a part-timer, Caitlin Christensen, who graduated from college just this year with her crime and delinquency studies, which is essentially like a criminal justice degree, and then she's seeking full-time employment. And I don't know if we need to go into, I guess, an executive session to talk about her salary and performance and things of that nature. I'm not quite as versed in the executive sessions and things like that.
Any personal performance or evaluation at all have to be done executive?
Okay. Do we want to do that at this time? Do we want me to just not talk about that?
What's the rest of your day look like?
Court this morning, and in the afternoon. I don't think I have any court. I think just prepping for the rest of the week.
You want to do an executive at the end of it?
How quick can you do it?
It wouldn't be too long.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
So is there information that you want to share with us, or are you just hiring this person?
Well, that's what I was wanting to discuss. I mean, changing her position from part-time to full-time. I mean, there is, last time I was in here, I think, talking, I mean, her mom was working our office. So there's that with the handbook, but I think our policy allows for us to have somebody working there. We just have to have an exception made. She's been working there for over a year now. Her, I don't know if you've been to our office, but where the two people sit that are up front, they sit right next to each other. You're always interacting, helping one another out. So there's, not only are you sitting next to one another, you're, I mean, working hand in hand a lot of times. And so to be able to work closely with somebody, I'd be able to get along with them. I think that they, I mean, mother and daughter really get along well together. She does a good job. Karen's been helping train her, and she's taken on a lot of responsibilities. And I think that office does. I mean, we need another full-time person there. It's part of why Karen's here is to talk about some of the, and she's been here 25 years, but things that have changed. That office has been growing, I think, for the last, I don't remember how many years, but it's been about the same that staff, the attorney, 2 full-time and a part-time for quite a long time. We've changed from electronic filing, where we used to take stuff up to the clerk's office, have them file it, now doing everything electronically. That's happened the last couple of years. It just adds more work down in our office. Now with Odyssey being implemented upstairs and us not having that, I think they have to do a couple extra steps in order to get cases filed, do things twice. Hopefully, if we get our program up and running where we can interact with them, that might alleviate some of that extra work, but I still think there's going to be more work involved. I think Caitlin spent most of the entire time that she was working from home scanning a lot of our files that we just haven't had time to scan and get rid of those files so that we can keep up to date. We have to keep physical files for a certain period of time, and then we can copy those and get those on a digital format, and just because we don't have a lot of space to keep files in there anyways. But we just use this time to try to catch up. And we're still not caught up, but I think that's the nature of business. It's just you're always behind, or at least you feel always behind. But I do think that office needs 3 full-time employees. I think there's enough work there. I haven't been all over the state, but I've been in enough different offices. There's a lot of work to be done. I think the office just needs in order to function properly and stay on top of things, that means 3 full-time people.
So personally, I think if that's all it is just to go from part-time to full-time, if that's what he's asking us, unless he has something really confidential about this person he wants us to know, I don't see why we need to go into executive session. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you
As
pretty
long
much
as-
said it all.
Okay.
As long as you don't discuss the individual's actual job performance.
Right? Yeah, I think you probably already said it all.
Okay, and I just don't want to get too much into something else that's going
No.
without executive.
No. Okay.
How about Rachel, her starting wage to be?
And then it would be, I mean, her salary, I don't know if that's part of the executive session or not, but I mean, she's currently at $10.50. So obviously like to give her a raise if she's moved from part-time to full-time. She's earned her degree. I think if we don't do that, she's gonna be looking somewhere else to get a job, which she's gonna have to. I mean, she's gonna wanna work full-time. She earned her degree and she wants to use it. I think our office is a good place for her to be using it.
She wants to stay.
She does. I talked to her about it. She wants to stay and she likes working here. I think she does have the potential, I mean, to grow in our office and have somebody that could potentially work in there for a long time. I mean, you never know what somebody's gonna do, but we got that potential.
So we do, on full-time positions, we do have kind of an established pay plan. It kind of is gonna depend on if it's a new position or if it's in line with one of your existing positions on what the starting pay for a salary for that kind of a position is.
Okay.
So maybe that's, that'd probably be something that we need to review about where should be placed. Because this is a specific instance that is outlined in the employee policy with the nepotism clause, the board does need to take an action to approve that employee being a full-time person, just to stay in line with our policy, because the policy does give the board the option to look at each situation and make a determination, so.
Would we know what level, you said you're gonna have to do some follow-up to figure out whether.
Well, and I don't know if you've.
What tier level, what their title would be.
And then we have to get together.
So, I don't know that.
I mean, that'd be brought back in the way of a salary sheet and some background information. Pardon?
We could enter administrative business next week.
Yeah, we could. And just a reminder, I know it's kind of hard, but make sure you speak into the microphone.
Yeah, so.
So really, I think what Joel probably needs today for sure is the board's approval to do this as a full-time person, because our policy allows for part-time or intermittent of the working together in the same office. And it doesn't allow for one to be a supervisor over the other, which would not be an issue in this case. Does that sound
So it's
Yeah,
appropriate?
so the only thing we need to allow is that the part-time or full-time is not a conflict in nepotism at this time.
Right, it would be an exception to our policy.
Yeah, be an exception to the nepotism policy.
Right.
Correct.
Yes, so you would, as a board, just grant permission to do that. And then you could include that the salary is to be determined based on our pay plan. And then if we need to have further discussions with Joel and the board about the salary, once we know what the position is and where our pay scale is, then you could do that on another.
I guess I would like to see what that full-time position would look like before we go ahead and vote for that. Randy, sorry.
Joe, before you got here, in years past, we've already hired a county counselor. So somewhere that ought to have freed up a lot of before you got here, it ought to have freed up the county attorney's time somewhat. We have hired off and on for the last 16 years that I've been here, off and on had a part-time secretary. I think that the commission needs to evaluate where we're at. What happens if we ask for a 10% cut in budget time? So, I mean, this isn't just pass out, hand positions out like we have done sometimes in the past. I think it needs to be discussed and thought about a little bit. We have budget coming up, whether we can work it in the budget, whether we can make it an addition for the rest of the year. You know, if that's what we want to do and work it into the budget. But I know there's cases, I understand that. I'm not gonna, because I don't know what their job is. I do not know. I mean, I have to rely on somebody in charge to tell me that. But we've freed up quite a bit of time for somebody there. And so that's just my statement. My second question that I really want somebody to do something with sometime is, we have, and I brought it up not too long ago about, not to you, but about four-wheelers tearing up roads, mudders, going down the road. The sheriff, when I called it in, when we were standing out on the scene, well, I can't do nothing. Well, there's somebody can do something somewhere. I need, Harvey County has some sort of rule, law. Sure, the state guideline says if they're just going down at one time, they'll go anywhere. But maybe we have some home rule powers for this. We have a lot of it going on, and there's nothing more irritating to some of the farmers. The day I was at Linda and Vaughn Peters' house, I mean, he was absolutely, you know, frustrated by, here goes a guy just going right down after he leaves his driveway to tear the road up. And so I'd like to see if somehow, if there's a home rule we can put on and do something for it. I mean, it's happened years after years. The same people that live out there and see the mudders go by and tear the roads up. So I just don't know if there is. If you can check into it, maybe give us some sort of.
And so there isn't, as far as I know, like a county ordinance at this point in time that covers that. I think that's something that we certainly could put in place. Right now, what we've got is criminal damage to property. It's knowingly damaging property that's without consent. So I mean, there's different levels of intent, and that knowingly is that level of intent. You essentially have to know what your conduct is doing, and you're wanting to have that result. So it's going down a road just because it's mudding. I mean, and that's the other argument, that if somebody's pulled over, and you know that they're mudding, well, I was just driving down a road. It's not illegal to drive down a road when it's muddy. But then you look at their underlying actions, what does it look like? Are they going back and forth, side to side? Are there multiple people out there with them? I mean, it's all going to be fact specific to try to charge that crime out, but you're driving down a muddy road. I'm just driving down a muddy road. So I mean, if you want to get, I guess, specific as far as county ordinance, these are the roads that you can and cannot use during this time. As you live out there, I think that would probably be a pretty difficult thing to enact.
I think it's the intentions. What you said is the biggest thing we probably have to probably come up with some sort of ordinance, is the intention.
Right. I mean, I live out in the county, and I mean, I deal with it too. So
the hardest thing to prove is intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Joel, you can, and then you also throw the word in there, knowingly.
Knowingly,
That's
is that
another key factor that is almost impossible to prove.
But when they state, that's what Mr. Peters did. He asked me, what are you doing? Oh, just taking a ride. So he was intentionally going out.
But just taking a ride.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not intentionally tearing up the road. Would you argue that if you?
Would you come
I mean,
up
I
with
watch a
something
lot of
like-
cases and stuff, and our justice system has really gone south in protecting the criminals or the bad people. I'm sorry, that's just where I feel about it right now. And your hands are tied. The same way, I'm gonna just say it, we have a lot of drug problems here in Marion County, and what are we gonna do about them? Same way with thefts. And you have all these little key words to where you can even see the people steal them, and we can't prosecute them. I mean, it's crazy. So I don't know where on the ladder mud roads come into it. I appreciate what you're saying. But I think we have a whole system that is a little above us, which is terrible.
Doesn't stop us from making some sort of ordinance to try to give the sheriff's office some sort of teeth.
Right.
Right now, they really can't do anything. They'd probably get hit with harassment if they did, if we didn't have an ordinance in play.
And, I mean, in that knowingly, I mean, it's not the, you know, like there's specific intent like for murder or something like that. You could specifically intend that result. Knowingly is way less down from there. So like I said, I mean, you just have to look at the underlying facts of what somebody's doing and whether you can or cannot charge that out. I know that, I mean, it's a big county, there's not a lot of law enforcement out there. I mean, once somebody's gone down that road, I mean, they can be anywhere after that. And for the sheriffs to try to go down there and catch them actually doing it, you know, be a tough thing to actually catch them in the act doing it.
How effective is game cameras? Like if you catch somebody on a game camera, you got the mug shot right there. Can you prosecute that?
I mean, it depends on what it is, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's,
Depends.
yeah, that's
There are a lot of game
that's-
cameras in this
That's-
county.
that's the law, your answer
Yeah,
depends.
got it,
Semi-load.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, yeah, because I heard that once before, where in different situations, people actually had game cameras where some acts were caught, but it still was not prosecutable because of, I guess, depending whatever happened, I don't know. Sounded crazy to me, but that's what it was.
I mean, I know that we have cases of burglary and theft going on right now that, I mean, we have using game cameras that people use. They can be effective, but if somebody takes it and all that data's
She
gone.
steals the game camera.
Getting back to your original
Yeah.
question,
Right.
where we
Right.
need to be, will your budget support going from part-time to a full-time employee for the rest of this budget year?
And I need to look at where our, and I can come back with that information, I can't think of the contractuals, where those are. I know before I got here, a lot of things I think were conflicted out. I haven't had to conflict too many things out.
The outside prosecution.
So I think what he's saying is that he's spending less on contractual line items, so he potentially might be able to cover that difference on the payroll line item.
So this, part of this salary may not even have to come out of regular budget, is that what you're saying?
I think it would still.
No, it would all come out of his budget, but you have a line item in your budgets for personnel, for contractual agreements and expenses, for commodities and capital outlay. And within the framework of that department total, you can spend more on one line and less on another,
Yes.
as long as your department
Okay.
total doesn't go over. And the county attorney's office is actually even in the general fund, and I know in many years in the past, I don't know most recently, they have gone over on their budget multiple times. But since it's in the general fund,
Yeah.
it's not any kind of a violation,
Yeah.
so.
I'd be fully in support of it if we knew that we could handle it without dipping into the general fund.
So may I ask one last question? You touched on it briefly, but I'm very interested in, you said she got her degree,
Mhm.
and I really, that kind of rattles me a little bit, because I really love getting qualified, educated people in jobs. And so, I'm interested in that. Can you just kind of tell me a little bit more about her degree that she has, what it entails? I know you touched on it a little bit, but.
It's, her degree title is from Emporia State, was Crime and Delinquency Studies. She got her degree in 3 years. And it's essentially a criminal justice degree. You're studying, and that was what my undergrad was in, was criminal justice. So, I mean, it's, I think, changed a little bit from how they study things. So they changed, I mean, the crime and delinquency studies. So I think a lot of her, what she's been studying would be applicable to our, I guess, underlying things that she's using. A lot of her stuff will be more, a little bit secretarial, but a lot of it will be filing cases and, you know, looking at cases and having somebody that has some training in criminal justice to be out there, to be an extra set of eyes for me to help me be, I think, advantageous for that office.
Well, I personally would be in favor of, because I do like qualified people in our jobs.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
If it's an
That's just
asset,
right there.
you know, if it can be an asset to you in making the office more efficient, why, that certainly would be a plus.
Yeah, I think that she has been a good worker, and I think, you know, now that she has her degree, I mean, she's been working towards it now, but she's been there, like I said, over a year, so I think she's been taking on more responsibility, and I think she's been doing a good job. So.
This time, I will take care of the obvious, put the weight on the full-time, my personal opinion, so I'll make a motion to make the exception of nepotism in the county attorney's office.
I'll second.
Second, Ken, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5. All those opposed?
On nepotism. I think that's a big issue. You got a lot of other departments where you headed with it.
All right.
That's a good point.
I mean, you got one department here, but we have to apply it to the county.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, just clarify, I mean, your vote, I mean, it would just apply to this specific situation at this point in time.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that there's nepotism has been excluded for the county attorney's office.
Right, I was gonna ask for that as a
this.
clarification, because, yeah, the way you made your motion, it sounds like it's just the requirement's lifted, but is your intent?
My intent is for this one point in time in this office.
Should we redo it? Should we clarify that, or?
I can amend my motion to make an exception of nepotism to the county attorney's office for the individual.
Job specific.
Your name's Caitlin Christensen and Cheryl
Caitlin
Christensen,
Christensen.
mother-daughter.
Discussion. Again, my question, how do we apply it to the rest of our county employees?
I think in this county, we may always have that kind of issue,
I agree.
just because we have a big county with not a lot of people, so conceivably, there's gonna be another department, road and bridge, whatever, that, you know, might be, we have a dad out there and a son or something comes along, and I totally hate to exclude qualified people because of that. I know it can be an issue, but you know, I think we kind of, I hate to say we should look at that at a case by case bit each time, because maybe that's going to open up a can of worms. But I think you're still going to have that issue arise occasionally. Probably not as much as we think, but it will arise occasionally.
So, my amended motion, did I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Dave. Now, is there any other discussion?
I just wanted to mention on Ken's point that the way the handbook is set up now, it is an approval on a case-by-case basis. So
Right.
you do have that
Right.
authority, and it's in the policy that way, but
Right.
it's just that when those situations are come up, that technically they're supposed to come up here for you to say yes or no.
All right. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
I will change my vote because it is in the handbook, but it is specifically for this case right now, so, aye.
And I'm with this specific case only.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's
that was
5-0?
Okay.
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 And so I guess I need to be coming back, I mean, just with more specifics as far as what
Yeah.
budget is concerned. Is there anything
Budget's
else?
concerned.
We
Job
really need to be
relation,
looking at
what
the
it's gonna
job
do.
description
Yeah.
too,
Okay.
because if this is truly a new position and not a position that is gonna be doing the same things as others in your office, then we're gonna need to develop a job description.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole overall, the overhead's gonna be, to have a full-time employee, having health benefits, all those things.
So we can work together on that when you have some time.
Okay. Can do that.
And just to be clear, that does come back to the board also, but we can do some of the preliminary work on that to where they can look at it and be able to approve or.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
You've been patiently waiting out there.
Morning.
Morning.
The only thing I really had for you today was following up from last week. We talked about that grizzly to process our material. I've got copies of what they sent me. One of the biggest, well, I guess several advantages that I look at is the fact is that we have that material up there now that we could be using if we could just screen out that other stuff besides the bigger stuff there, so we wouldn't have to crush it so much, crush all of it. Obviously, by not having to crush all of it, we could cut down on those costs of having to do that. I have one more if you need one.
Yeah, give the press there, I've witnessed it, I've seen it.
But anyway, cut down on the crushing cost, that way we wouldn't have to crush everything. It is portable, so that we could move it around. We've got that big old pile of stuff down here at the south shop we could work on too. It is adjustable. We can either screen it anywhere down to 2 inch or up to 6 inch. Anything over 6 inch we probably have to crush anyway, but it does allow us that variability. The pieces on top are replaceable as well as adjustable. This is the only one that I've really found anywhere around. $17,000 for purchase, or it's $2,400 a month to rent. Based on $2,400 a month rent, it's about 7 months. And between the material we have there now, the material we could be getting, the material at the south shop, as well as anything else, I guess I'd recommend to purchase it, because I think we could go way beyond if we rented it for that. And I think we can keep it busy all the way through the winter time and in the next year or so.
How wide is this thing?
This is 12 foot, which would be plenty big for us. They actually make a 14 foot also.
On the base? It's 12
Yes.
foot. So
Yeah.
the cross slope is what, 16?
No. It's 14 foot all the way across, which would be plenty big enough for us for our loaders or excavator.
Oh, the only thing that I was asking about was, is roadworthy? So you could load it up on a wrecker and take it somewhere else? And
Oh, well, we just put on a low boy and do that. My thought is to mount them on some, put it up on some concrete blocks, simply because that way you're pushing up against the blocks and not up against the metal frame. Less damage to the frame, should last longer. But what you do is you dump material on the top, and anything that goes through there goes into the bottom portion. You come in from the loader, you pick that stuff up, you back it up, and go put it in the pile. That's your minus two or whatever it is you're screening. The rest of it rolls off the front. You either come in with a loader or excavator to take that out of the way, put it in a different pile that it would be crushed. So,
You're buying it for the main purposes are cement that we're gonna get.
right.
Have you actually seen it?
I have not.
Being used on cement?
No, well, it's like anything else. You can either you can use several different operations. What most people do when they use a crusher is they take an excavator and drop it in the top of the crusher slowly. One thing about using an excavator, they can actually get rid of the bigger stuff that we know definitely wouldn't go through there, so it causes less damage to that. The other thing is you can actually load it by a front end loader. You can actually do it with one loader if you really want to. It's a very slow process, but it is something that can be done, where you just dump on top, and if you just dump it real slow, you tend to get the stuff segregated or sieved a lot faster. So like I said, I've contacted all the quarries around here and nobody has anything sitting around. So that's one of the reasons why I finally, talking with a couple contractors, they sent me to these people. So, but I think it'd be very advantageous to have it. And getting down to the point to where if we take care of it and we get done with all this stuff, we could turn around and resell it. I mean, it would be a piece that we could sell too, so.
I think you gotta try something if you go rent it for 2 months, you got 5,000. You got over
Makes
almost
sense.
half of it, 3 months you would have half of it, so.
And like I said, it's portable to where we could move it, fairly easy. In a half day's time, we could have it moved in where we wanted to, so.
Are we gonna finance it?
That's up to you. That's up to you, so.
Are you gonna make that motion?
No.
Oh, it's not that.
So, but like I said, I'm just kind of looking at the other big advantage is if we get some material out of there now, then we're not buying other material too, so we do have that benefit.
I think you gotta try it.
Even though it looks like it worked well, it looks like to me that You're gonna have to be running that thing quite a while to get a truckload.
Well, it all depends on what kind of material you're putting through there. You know, from what I've seen up there, there is a lot of the finer stuff, and we just can't get to it because of the bigger stuff. I've actually contacted the contractor up there to see if we couldn't rent their track loader to use that too. That way we wouldn't be running our rubber tires, or unless we use our excavator. So I mean, that's the other thing. But you know, it still comes down to the fact that even though it's a slower operation, if we get a good pile up there, we could, you know, still be using it. So,
Sure.
I mean, I'd love to go out and get a processor, but I mean, we're talking 6 figures probably to do that. Renting it, I mean, that's assuming we could even find something to rent. You know, the quarries are going crazy right now trying to keep up on things. So,
That amount of money, what, now Hillsborough brought in APAC last year, or year before, and you was on the council probably when they did that, brought it in and did that concrete over there, out there straight west of the shop. Do you happen to remember what amount of money was spent for that?
Do not, Larry's on.
Yeah. I mean, it did a nice job with what they did, but they brought the crusher in, I believe, and
Yeah.
crushed it up to road stuff.
It'd be interesting to know what that cost was.
Yeah, I
You say Larry's on the phone?
Larry's on right now. We could ask him if the board would be okay with that.
Yeah. See, you happen to have a rough idea what kind of cost it was. So much a ton, I believe.
well, and that's usually how it does, and that is depending on the time of the year, how busy they are, as well as how much they have to crush. Typically, rock is a little cheaper than concrete, simply because it takes more wear and tear to crush concrete as it does rock. But those are all the biggest factors. That's why I wanted to wait until you know, later this fall or the first of the year to put that out to bid. That way, those guys, if I'm sure their crushers are going to be available, a lot more, have more available.
I think that's when they come in.
Yeah, so we'll get a better price, but that's what that's gonna be. Plus, the other thing is, you know, coordinating them to get them in. I don't know what that time frame would be, so.
Or we could follow up on it and bring it back up.
Okay. I said I don't care. It's up to you guys. I just see a lot of benefits for it, so. So, but other than that, I didn't really have anything else, so. We are starting a blade patch down in Sunflower today, so let the general public know we'll have traffic control. We've got Sunflower, Old Mill, 30th, then we'll start moving north again, so.
So Bryce, I want to change it. So I had questioned you the other day at the work session about the detour up here for 77, and you said that you thought that would be the end of the week till you had that detour blocked and
Yes.
the road complete and stuff. Do you foresee any way at all possible to move it up a day or two or anything? Was the reason for it because the road was wet or
Well,
because
right,
busy?
we actually went up there Friday and did a little rework on it. They're up today to finish it. They should finish Vista. They will move over to Xavier.
Oh, so they're working on it then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we it was just so wet, we couldn't get on it without totally turning it up.
Oh.
And then, we are working on Xavier. We've went through and disc up the shoulders, the grass and everything else.
Okay.
Still provided access. The school has been in contact with me quite a bit. They were routing everybody around, for, conditioning and stuff like that. But I think it's gonna take most of this week to get Xavier done with this amount of work we
Okay.
need to do. But
I was under the impression you weren't gonna get started for the end of the week or.
no. We
So-
will, I mean, I can only throw so much equipment at it because I've gotta make sure we stay out of each other's way safely and stuff to that effect. But, my plan is to have it done by the end of the week, so.
Yeah, okay, so if you're working on it, that was my
Yep,
question.
yep,
Thank you.
yep. So, anything else?
I want to thank you for having some of those blade men out Saturday. It made a big difference in my area.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
well,
noticed.
And
yeah,
another question that I had, you know, we were talking at the work session about, you know, we have a tickler system and it's pages and pages long. And we also were talking about blade man responsibility for turning in things. Do you think it'd be wise to have a separate tickler system for what the blade men turn in and what gets turned in by individuals? That way you could kind of say, oh, that's already been turned in. But if a blade man, to me, if a blade man turns in See, it sounds to me like that's something that we ought to get on as quick as possible. I don't know, I'm just asking your opinion.
Sure. Yeah, in the past, they actually had two systems, one for roads and one for culverts. And what they found out was stuff was getting, they weren't looking at both of them. You know, they were looking at one and not looking at the other one, or vice versa. This one here is, I guess, brings up the question. I understand the significance, but I guess my question is, so if one comes in just the blade man and one comes in everybody else, now what becomes a priority? You know, to say that if a constituent calls in, is it any more or less a priority than what the blade man says, or vice versa?
Well, my guess is that it may already be on the tickler.
Well, and honestly, we are trying to get to that tickler. I mean, we try to call everybody as soon as we can to let them know what's going on. You know, obviously now that we won't be getting near as many complaints since it's drier, we'll be able to work on the roads a little more and get stuff wrapped up, but it's still gonna take a little bit to get caught up, you know, after that week.
Sure.
But, you know, that's something we can definitely talk about. You know, we've talked about the communication, whether it's, like you talked about going with the iPad or something to that effect, or it's
some type of device that
Yeah.
they can get the information to.
Yeah, and that's what I have to sit down and try to work at with 12 different blade men out there, plus you know, Jesse and I and everybody else having access to that too, so we could coordinate all that stuff. Typically, it's not the coordination; it's just getting to, you know, how much rock we need to haul or whatever else is the problem. But or a blade man, but definitely something to look
But
at.
I'm just thinking a blade man should know exactly what he needs.
Yeah.
You know, he ought to be calling and say, I need 200 ton of rock on this road, or 300
Yeah,
or whatever.
and like I said, that's something we're going to talk about in our meetings on how we can follow up with that, because I want to get their input too, because you know, they have to buy into it also, because if they don't want to or whatever else, then we have that fight.
I don't think
too.
that ought to be an option.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but you know, some people will wholeheartedly jump into that and be great. Other people will still be reluctant to it, and then it falls on us to follow up with that. So, but no, I mean, any suggestion there's always something to think about. So,
Yeah, I'd like to follow up with that with one final question. I know I said final before, but.
this is the final one.
Yeah, he brought up another question. That tickler list really intrigues me a little bit, and I want to know if at all possible, if every week or once a month, the commission could have a copy of that. And I use this as an example, and that's when we were doing the wind farm up here. Kirk and Michael would every week give us a list of the roads that were needed to be done, and then what was completed. Now, the reason I even say that is because it would help me when I have constituents call me and I can see on the list, oh, your road is on the list and they are working on it, or I can then call you and say this road is not on the list, and that would help reduce a lot of calls to him on my part, because I would then have the information and I can see when the last time the road was worked. It would just give us the ability to, like you say, communicate more with our constituents, and if there is one that's on there for 3 months or whatever that got overlooked, then maybe it just gives us so much flexibility if we had a list.
If there's something on it for 3 months, then that's
Well, I
my
just threw that out there,
Yeah.
but I just think that would be valuable for us to have it. I don't care if it be once a month or every 2 weeks or
Yeah.
whatever it was, because I know it really was helpful up north.
The only thing that I could say for that is, obviously, it'd have to remain, you know, confidential, whatever else, because we would have names and addresses on there of people that might possibly be,
I
you know,
don't
so.
think that would be confidential at all.
I don't know.
I disagree with that at all.
I'm just saying, I don't,
Okay.
that's one thing I could think of, so.
No, because
But-
if John on this end of the road calls me and Pete up the road further call me, I say, oh, hey, that road's already on the list. I don't have to tell him that Pete called, but even if he did,
Yeah,
who would care? You know,
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's not
I don't know, like I
confidential.
said, that's
Well,
what
the
I.
Kirk and Michael list didn't have any names, it just had.
It had
it's
the
just
road, that's right.
Just had
Yeah.
the roads.
Right.
Like I said, this has names and
Well, you can
addresses.
take that
and
off.
Well, but it's all on the same, it's all on the, it's, whatever else.
Well,
It's
I
a
don't think
worksheet
that,
they were-
I don't think that's
Yeah.
confidential.
Okay,
I don't-
well, like I said, I mean, yeah, I don't have a problem with it, you're
Okay.
welcome to look at
I
it,
think
so.
that would be nice. if
'Cause I know we've
commissioners are
talked.
interested in it.
Yeah, we've talked about is we need to make sure that, you know, a lot of times people say, well, been called in for several months, well, it's not on there, okay? So why is it not on there? Was it because we missed it? If that's the case, it's our fault. If not, they're just saying that, then it's just like, well, wait a minute here, let's, you know. so-
And that's right, and that's
Yeah.
another thing we can handle right on our phone call, and you know,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, no, on the list, I'll put you on, or I'll call Bryce or whatever.
Like I mentioned in the meeting last week, we got one on 30th and Timber that he swears he walked into the building and told somebody, but this was the time I think his secretary was off for her deal, and they said they were just filling in, so I don't know, we haven't got to it yet, but anyway, that's something that he said that was within the last 6 weeks, and it's not on the, I picked it up, and it's not on the list, so.
Yeah, and that's what I don't wanna have, is
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
missing things or whatever else, because that's what we're here for.
But when they go a little farther and tell me they've actually walked in, that, I mean, usually they don't lie about that, but I
Exactly.
ask them for about the person that they talk to.
Well, I mean, the most important thing is if you have a person that's gonna fill in, that they know how to fill out a
Oh,
ticket.
yeah. Well, and the other thing that I do face is with having officers on either side of the hallway, that if somebody's not over here, they could go over there or vice versa, but people may or may not know that or
Yeah,
whatever,
that's
so.
right.
But like I said, there's a lot of those things that, you know, communication is obviously critical for any department or agency, so. All right, Will,
Another thing I
anything
got,
else?
Bryce, is at the end of the work session, mentioned between 190th and 56 on Chisholm.
Okay,
Did that get added to 2020,
I-
2021?
on the rebuild,
Yeah.
I will follow up with that, so.
Just,
Yeah,
just got a question about clarification, so.
good. We'll just put it on there. So.
That's in your district. Can't. All right.
All right,
Bryce.
all right, thanks.
All right.
Susan's coming.
Susan, I've seen her out there in the
Yeah,
hallway.
she's got,
Is this my spot? So I'm not.
Yeah.
There's two on.
Okay.
you sit down,
You can sit down?
Yeah.
Okay.
get too much stuff there.
I think in your packet you had a list of the properties for the June 17th sale, which is gonna be held out at Marion County Lake Hall at 10 o'clock. I just need to know, the last time I was here, you had talked about whether or not you wanted to have a minimum bid put on those properties. The maximum we can have put on each property is the amount of back taxes owed. We've never done that in the past, but we have set a minimum bid before, and generally the county ends up with a lot of property, unfortunately. So I just need you to let me know what you want to do. Oh, and the other thing is the remaining properties are set for hearing in front of Judge Hornbaker on July 7th at, I think he's at 10 a.m. And then we'll set the next sale after that, and that will take care of all the properties, so. I don't,
As of right now, we only have one sale, right?
we have one sale now, we'll have another one in August, yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is where people's getting message back to me last night that there's 2 sales.
Well, there will be 2 sales,
Yes.
but there's only one set right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The other one
Yeah.
has to go through hearing on July 7th.
7th, right, at 10 o'clock. That should not take, I mean, I don't see that will be a problem. I think we'll probably get judgment on everything. Generally, we do. There is one piece of property that is the Dudek property, which I think all they owe is for their solid waste assessment. And they have protested that in the past. It's been forgiven, but they filed an answer, and so there probably will be a short hearing on that on the 7th. But
That might be something, one that I need to give you
to
some
talk
background
about.
on.
Yeah, that would be great, yeah.
Susan, is there any charges right now against property that we're processing that's going this far, but yet they can walk in and pay the back taxes as of the day before or the day of?
Yeah, well, there would be a $350 charge to get it out, plus then they have to pay all the back taxes. Now, last time we
Get
had.
it out of the sale,
To get
correct?
it out of the sale.
Okay.
The last time that we did that, the Treasurer's Department asked that we actually tell them that they need to come in about a week or several days before so that we know that the check clears if they pay with a check. I think if they're gonna come on the date of the sale or that close, they're gonna need to bring cash or a cashier's check.
Okay, that's just the taxes that is 3 years or more older.
It's all the taxes. You have to get current.
You have to get current then
Right.
to do that.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a little misunderstanding on my part.
There is a way that if it is their homestead, they can come in and sign a homestead affidavit, and they can have 2 years that are delinquent, but if they screw up again, then they're gonna be in the next sale, I mean, whenever you guys do another sale, so. But that's the only way,
Okay.
is if it's their home and they have to sign an affidavit, so.
And so if that situation were to happen, would we be able to use all the documentation that we've already paid for and spent to prepare it for this, to move it on to the next one, or would we have to start all over again?
Generally, in the past, we started all over again, but I have all the certificates of title, so if you wanted to use that, you probably could. It would just have to be updated by the person doing the sale. Would have to go in and spend a lot of time at the deeds office.
Okay.
So, I guess my question is, do you have a minimum amount that you want to set? And when I'm assuming that whatever you set for the minimum amount on this sale, we'll use for the next sale, because it's really all one case, so.
I don't know what normal properties go
I've got a
for.
question.
Sure.
Can the original homeowner buy the house back if we don't have a minimum bid on the cheaper
No.
price?
No, you have to, nobody who has an interest in that property can bid on it. You can't bid on it if you personally owe back taxes. You have to sign an affidavit for both of those things. So, you know, if my house gets in the tax sale and I want to go in and bid on it and get it back cheaper, I can. And if I sign a false affidavit, I can always have it turned over to the county attorney for prosecution.
And so if the county ends up owning the house, how long do the people have to move out?
Well, we would talk to the sheriff's department and we would have to
an
get
eviction.
an eviction process. So it's about 30 days, I'd say. I'm thinking we had one.
We did.
You did, and Mr. Jantz took care of that. I don't know how long that took, so.
Usually the eviction goes 30 days.
It wasn't
takes another 90.
the property owner that was living in it though, it was a
Oh,
renter.
okay, it was a renter, okay.
I think it took even a little longer, it seemed like.
Yeah, it seemed like what, yeah.
Well, personally, I think, to go back to the question is, I think we tried that, putting on a minimum bid, and like we said, it really kind of backfired on us a tad,
Uh-huh.
maybe.
Uh-huh.
As much as I would like to have a minimum bid to reduce our expenses, I think we're defeating our own purpose by doing that. So I would be in favor of no minimum
No
bid,
minimum
just
bid.
get rid of
And
it, would be
it's-
my thought.
Several of the properties that are on this sale are in Peabody, and so I'm gonna contact the city of Peabody and just let them know and see if they're interested in putting in a minimum bid or what they wanna do. I know, you know, the problem ends up when the county owns it, then we've gotta get it mowed and all that kind of stuff.
That is a sad part of the league. I really feel that what I'd like to see, whether it be in any city in here, that if these properties on South Olive are just way beyond repair. And on South Olive now, I'm talking the 100 block South Olive and 200 block South Olive. So, if the county ended up with them, I'd like to see some sort of agreement between the county and the city that if we did tear them down, that they take the lot.
But they take what?
That they take the lot so that we don't have mowing expense and anything after that.
We need to work that through some sort of land bank, right?
And you could, yes, you could do that, so.
Yeah, the city of Peabody could establish a land bank. I know that's what the city of Marion has done. And that then stops the taxes on that property until you get it out and back in the open market.
And the city of Marion even offered to the city of Peabody, I was there the day after we started this land bank, about, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago, or something like that. That city of Marion was more than willing to even extend their bank to do that for the city of Peabody too, so there's some options out that
Yeah.
way too.
Yeah, I guess I'd be in favor of no minimum bid, just.
Well, the reason we had the minimum bid was just to try to cover our title cost,
Yeah,
which is pretty extensive.
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, you get through a bunch like this, we've got a huge bill.
Mhm.
I mean, there could be $500 to $1,000 of lawyer's fee, her fee, the Hannaford abstract fee.
That's why we set it
Per
at
property.
500, wasn't it?
Your minimum bid was, I thought it was, yeah, it could have been 500. I don't remember.
It was less than that at one time.
Yeah, but
But, you know, those costs, just like everything, it's cost of doing business.
Mhm.
You know, and if we can't get at least that, why?
No, I agree, and that was my thought originally when we did that, you know, if you don't have $500 to invest, you really shouldn't be
Yeah.
buying it anyway, but.
And if you don't,
Backfired on us.
if
lost
nobody's gonna
sales.
invest that much in one of these properties anyway, they don't probably want it anyhow.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody really wants one of these properties, they know they've gotta pay all the back taxes. You know, they should,
No,
and,
they don't.
No.
They're wiped away by the tax sale, they don't have to pay the
Yeah.
tax.
well,
But you mean if we set the minimum bid for all the back taxes, you
well,
can
that's
do
what I
that,
mean.
yeah.
I think we need to have the minimum bid should be the back taxes. I mean, we're losing a ton of money every time we have a tax sale, let's
Okay.
face it.
If I count on here the ones that I think, just out of the town that I know, there's gonna be 4 or 5, and there's 4 or 5 more to come on the next sale, that's just as ugly as mud fits. So, what I'm getting at, Ken, is what are we gonna do with them after, if what I project happens, that would come right back to us, what are we gonna do with it?
Well, the thing is, are these people gonna walk, I guess these people think they're gonna walk in and buy these properties for $100?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
$50?
I mean, we've had that, I mean.
Yep.
And I've heard,
sometimes-
I've heard in other communities where the people that have done that, it ends up the property looks worse after a couple of years, because they don't do anything with it, because they think they can turn around and make a couple thousand.
And you know, I
And
would
they don't
say,
do anything to it.
there were a couple properties like that in Marion, probably 10 to 15 years ago. We had a gentleman come in who, came from California, and they were gonna buy, you know, they'd been to a seminar on how to make all this money
Yeah.
to buy this property. And the county in about 3 years ended up with them again. However, then you get people who are we also have the neighbors who go in and wanna get a good deal to buy the property, and a lot of times they don't, they get it cheap, but they go in and clean it up. For instance, the Wheeler building, that sold really cheap, but you have somebody who's gonna do something to it and take care of it. So, I mean, I wish we could pick who we
Yeah, I
could
wish
sell
we
to,
could
but I can't.
segregate these investors from somebody that wants to do something good for the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Because otherwise you just end up with it again.
Then maybe the land bank comes back into what if we take it and put it to the land bank, then if we.
I really think that's a good deal.
But yes, Oklahoma and Texas people that was, Oklahoma and Missouri people that was there 10 years ago on the properties that I
Yeah.
bought, and Susan knows which one I'm talking about, they're there for the quick buck, because I give one guy a profit at the sale, because I wasn't smart enough to know what was on sale that day, because I didn't make it. But anyway, it's very, as you see this unfold, if you wait 3 or 4 years for what Susan just said to come back around, then the city has to deal with them, and all the neighbors has to deal with all the crap for 3 or 4 years. And right now, one of them is this not 205, it's a 207 that's just as ugly as it was the day they bought it 2 years ago or so, and got more crap around it.
Yeah.
It's
I just wish
205
I wish there
and
was a way of weeding the investor and the true property owner out, but it's impossible.
Yeah, I
You
mean.
can't do it.
Yeah, you can. If there was a way, I would certainly tell you, because
Well,
it doesn't do the county any good to have somebody. It doesn't do the little town any good, because a lot of these are houses in little towns, and they get run down, and then you might have a certain clientele move in that isn't yeah.
So does anybody
Little
have an
cell-
idea,
cell
what does it
phone,
cost to have a house, a small little house like these demolished? Is that huge? I know what it costs us for the school, but.
They can pretty
what
much
it
do it
cost
in
us
one
for
day,
the-
but you're
for-
still gonna have
Mobilization fees and all kinds of stuff.
$5 grand, maybe?
Yeah, it's $5,000
$5,000?
for a contractor at least, bottom
Okay,
line.
let's use that as
Yeah,
an
okay.
example. So I'm just wondering, 5, 6 houses or whatever a year, if we don't sell them, then we just go in and demolish them. I mean, one at a time, because $5 grand. What do you got, like you just said, the fees that we're going through to do this, all the expenses involved, you're gonna pay just demolish them and be done with it. So I'm wondering if that's not something, I don't know what the cost would be, or if we have somebody that we get do 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, maybe we get them cheaper?
Well, I
and
think you
whatever.
have to have an agreement with each city that you're doing that, and
Yeah.
that they would accept that lot
Mhm.
after we destroyed it.
Yeah.
Right.
Also,
Also, a city could do, I'm sorry.
no, that's all right.
I know in Marion, when the city has gotten some lots, the city has gone in, the city crew's gone in and taken it
Yeah.
down. And so that might be something as well.
Yep.
And I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I just sometimes jump in here, but The county, if Diane, if you all wanted to do something like that, the county could establish a land bank, a countywide land bank. And so properties that don't sell the tax sale, you could transfer those into the county land bank. Then you have the jurisdiction over, I believe, over those properties to be able to demolish. And if you do it on as a big enough project, as far as bidding that out, like if you have multiple properties, you know, sometimes there is a community development block grant for blight and slum conditions that may be something that would work to help with offsetting some of that cost. That's the same program that we utilized for the Florence School.
Yeah.
Well, that's not something we should at least consider. I mean, look at the
Yeah, I think
overall tax dollars.
Yeah.
Well, I've sat here quite a few times, and Susan comes in quite a few times, and this is a rolling thing. It's not gonna go away from us.
No, and I would expect after with the economic times that are going on right now.
What's
you know,
ahead?
What's ahead?
Yeah.
And the advantage
Well, I
of the
think that's a-
county doing their own land bank is that way, even if a little city doesn't want to do one, we would still have jurisdiction to be able to help out those.
Yeah,
we
with
should
the
really
number
think
of
about
small
it.
towns we have, I think, you know, of course, it's a different issue than what we're talking about right now, but I think we need to discuss that and maybe take some action on it
I agree. I mean, yeah, I think.
sooner than later.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think it's 3 board members or something like that had to be established or something like that. Not, I'm just saying.
I have never personally
Yeah,
researched
we'll
all the
just,
requirements,
you know,
but Brad has done it before.
We'll have Brad do a little research on it and then maybe we can act on it, but we have to do something, because like,
Yeah.
some of these tax sales, wait a minute, that thing was on there 6 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
And like you said, some people buy them for nothing and they're still horrible. I mean, so what you're chasing your own tail and spending all this money.
I mean, they just buy them thinking they'll turn around and somebody will give them a couple thousand for it.
Yes.
They
Or
make
they
a good
become
one.
crack houses or whatever, who knows?
Yeah, well, they just collect a lot of unhealthy
But,
Well, it's
issues.
interesting.
I
yeah,
said
so,
205 a while ago, but I meant
It's a broad-
207.
broader
205 is on
term.
sale this week,
Well.
yeah. So,
but yeah, I think you're right. Then that way you can control who you sell it to, and you can put conditions on, we want you to have a house built within, or do whatever you want, so.
And from those land banks, you could still potentially, I think, transfer title to the cities. through
Mhm.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, do
Yeah.
whoever.
It just, when you put it in the land bank, it's my understanding that then the tax stop.
Right.
Correct.
So, and that's a good thing too, because,
At least they come off the tax sale,
yeah.
don't reappear.
Susan, I've got a question.
Sure.
If we put a minimum bid of $500 on each property
Mhm.
and did not sell,
Mhm.
could it sell on the August 11th sale without spending any more money from the county?
That's a good question. I would have to go back and double check on how soon.
You'd have to touch it again, would you?
Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't have to do any title work again, but the thing would be I have to go back and look and see what the statute allows, because sometimes you sell it once and then you have to wait a certain period of time before the county can try and sell it again, so I'd have to take a look at that.
You pulled that on us once already. Told us there is something where we can't do it real quick like.
I think there is, but to
Seems
be
like
honest,
it's either 60 or 90 days
Days, yeah.
after the closing, the sale, first sale's closed.
closed, right.
Well, we haven't had much luck with a minimum, so I guess I'd probably go with a no minimum.
Okay.
So we don't need to take any action then, because that's where it's at now.
I think it would be helpful
Yeah.
if you just get a consensus, at least to make sure everybody is a group, you know, because I've written down a couple of them, but I'm not sure if everybody is in agreement. So if
Alright.
you could just clarify that.
So I'll poll the commission.
I just hope we don't draw in more investors because of that.
It's gonna be there. I've sat through too many.
Yeah.
They're there.
Everybody will leave the big city and move to the country now.
And the good properties, I mean, one that's, let's say it's a junk house but it's next to some good property, we'll do what Susan said. It'll draw that neighbor
Right,
sometimes.
I mean, for the next sale, we have some mineral interest in there, and I've already had like the
Yeah.
landowner contact me who wants to come in and buy the mineral interest and reunite it with his property.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But
some
boy,
others too, yeah.
I just knowing this South Holly, or no matter what we do.
I like that town, poor town.
Well, I live real close to it. Let's put it that
Oh,
way.
okay.
Matter of
There
fact,
you
I
go,
live-
there's your opportunity.
You drive,
No.
you drive
No.
by it every day. huh?
No, thank you.
You can't own everything in Peabody, huh?
No.
So.
You don't want it.
So are you gonna get your office mostly today? Because I'd like to get some clarification on some of the properties other than just description?
I
Is it
have,
on?
I have hearings all afternoon,
Oh, okay.
so, but, if you wanna tell me what you want, I can get it for you.
Oh, well, I was just gonna see, actually what portion of the property was gonna be sold, but I can come into your office.
Okay.
Your secretary can do that, right?
Okay, yeah, I think so. Okay.
So poll the council, in favor or not in favor of the minimum?
In
Diane?
favor.
Ken?
No minimum.
Randy?
Yeah, I don't know what their answer is.
It's worth a try.
Yeah.
Dave?
We can change it again.
Yep.
And I'll say no minimum, so.
So, no minimum? Okay, thank you very much.
Jim
Is,
sold.
All right.
No, in essence, we're just throwing money away.
And that's what my feelings is. Quit making noise down there, please. But, anyway, I just know that what I hate to do is burden our cities with more trouble, and that's what we're doing. I mean, with selling some of these at the shape they're in. I know we can't be God or whatever to do that, but it's burdened our small towns.
We also have to
police
get the small towns interested in cleaning up their own towns too.
Yeah, more dope addicts and slums, I mean, not slums, but they're just people that
No, you're right, slums.
stay in there overnight and cause trouble, and it's, yeah.
They move in 10 people.
I'm hoping that there's somehow we can help that situation, is all I'm saying.
And I think what we talked about, the land bank and everything else, and the county starts getting more aggressive with getting these and then just going in and bulldozing them, that you're right, that does affect the other homes, the nice homes, property values, and it affects the value of the entire
Yeah.
city. And this way, ultimately, maybe we can clean up cities like that.
Winter time is the only time that we used to try doing it, Kent, is bring our track hoe in the winter time when
Yeah,
it froze and
yeah, we
stuff.
tore one down
Down
a
south.
couple of
Yep,
years ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, yeah. That was that way, it was already burned or something, so.
All right, I'm gonna move the meeting towards Park and Lake. If there's no other discussion about that. Okay. Isaac, are you available? I see your mic is unmuted, but I don't hear you.
looks like he's trying to mess with it a little bit.
Isaac, he dropped out, he's coming back.
Yeah, it says there was no audio pin entered.
It's aggravating sitting out there and then all of a sudden you're asked to speak and it don't work to you, you know?
He went to sleep on it.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Can't keep hitting that mouse up so often.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, there he's back.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, okay.
Way to figure it out, Isaac.
So I had a couple things for the commission today. The first thing was I spoke to Ken about it a little bit. Memorial Day weekend, we had a few issues with ATV action out here at the lake. I think Kent had a couple complaints that were called into him, and I just wanted to touch base on some of that. What I've done, and so on Memorial Weekend, and it started like Wednesday of Memorial Day week, and it went on until Monday when the rain came. But it was probably the busiest I have ever seen the lake since I have been here for a period of 3 or 4 days. But we did have a lot of people out here. We had kind of regressed in what progress we have made with the ATVs and the permits. I did catch multiple people with kids riding on their laps. There were a few that had, open containers in their golf carts or ATVs. The sheriff's department ended up coming out and helping us out along with Fish and Game. They showed up on Saturday around mid-afternoon, and they came out and helped us out, which did provide a lot of support that we did need for the weekend, because with what we have on staff here, it works, but on a weekend like that, it's very hard to watch everybody and keep an eye on everything here. So what I've done is this past week, I have called everybody that we have on record with these ATV permits that have come to the office, got their permits, we have their information. I've gone through and I'm still working on it. I've called the majority of them, and we've gone over all the rules and regulations again. And I will say this weekend was much better. And Kent, I don't know if you want to touch on it. I don't know, exactly what you heard from people, but it is something that we're trying to figure out.
Well, I heard pretty much the same thing as what you brought up. A bunch of people hanging on an ATV and probably driving too fast. And I think you even stated it, unless I'm wrong, that they were driving them into Marion. Is that correct? Some of them?
Yes, that's very correct. Yes, and they're taking upland. It's not the back way. It's upland and then down past the golf course into town. And I've gotten a couple calls from some residents out there on upland that are saying that, and they're asking me if that's legal or not. And from my understanding, it is not. And we've talked to the sheriff's department. They kind of know the situation we're in, and I know that they're busy, they're overloaded, they have a lot of ground to cover, but they were able to come out here this weekend and even this past weekend, because I know a lot of residents have been asking for increased sheriff's presence out here at the lake, and especially on the weekends, that is something that we definitely like to see. But yeah, it is an issue.
As I was talking with Isaac, I just, I don't know what the process would be to get him deputized to where he could give a ticket. But if Isaac had the ability to write a ticket, I think it'd be a really big deterrent, because they'd realize, we know there's somebody out there all the time that can give us a ticket. But I don't know all the hoops that need to be jumped through to get that done, but I think it would be wise. 4th of July coming up, unless it's a rain out, you're gonna have the same crowd.
Isaac? Randy?
Hey, Randy.
What about, the only way to me to, first, what you've done is great, is to call people and let them know what the rules are. I mean, they should have known. But second of all, how many outsiders that was visiting people come in and did that? I don't know how many or anything like that. But what I'm questioning is we don't have signs up to state what we allow around there. And so maybe if we get some definite rules of what we allow, signs need to be up, and even stating what we allow. I don't know, but like I think you said, Kent, so what if they come and get their permit, are they still gonna do it? I think that's what you said the other day, so.
Yeah,
but
you can't drink and drive anything.
No.
It's illegal to drive a boat and drinking.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can get a BUI.
So people should know that they can't do that.
Yeah.
Just come back to the common sense thing.
Well, the trouble is you get a big family gathering or big friend gathering out there, there's the core of them knows what they're supposed to do, and then the rest of them mess it up.
Are people bringing ATVs in from out of county for the weekend?
So the way, and I was going to say, the way the rule states right now, it's just Marion County residents and homeowners and trailer owners that are have the option to get this permit. That being said, I will say that Memorial Weekend, there were 3 or 4 that were brought out here from out of county, and we shut them down. You know, they did try. A few of them came in and asked first, which we always appreciate, but you know, a few of them were just driving around. Being out here every day, you kind of know who has them and who doesn't, and who's got the permits and who hasn't, because you see the same ATVs and golf carts going around. So when a new one pops up, it's pretty easy for us to tell that they haven't been in and got the permit, and you don't recognize them. So there were I think there ended up being 4 over Memorial Day weekend that were brought out here on trailers or pulled behind campers, that, you know, we ended up stopping them. And there were another 2 or 3 that were from, you know, Marion County that had the permits that were breaking little rule restrictions, that we ended up stopping. And kind of my procedure has been, if that's the case, and I stop somebody or talk to them about what they're doing wrong, it's, you know, this is a warning. I keep the sheet of all the ATV rules in my truck. I give them one, and if it happens again, we're going to take your permit away for the year. And that's kind of been the way that we have been handling it.
Okay.
So my question's still on the table. What do we do to give Isaac authority to issue a ticket? Because most people out there right now say, oh, he's gonna stop us and tell us not to do that. But I still think there needs to be a little teeth in that, especially on the holiday weekends. He can handle it during the rest of the time, I think.
I will tell you, Kent, what you said is what I always heard when I was growing up, and maybe when you were growing up right with me, was Dale Snelling could write you a ticket. Always, and he did.
Yeah,
and he did at
Dale
one time.
did. He was, but
at one
I'm
time.
sure he was deputized to be able
Yes.
to do that.
Yeah, at that time, yeah, but.
I mean,
law enforcement-
I can't remember. I don't know that he carried a firearm.
I never seen that, but, yeah.
No, Dale.
But
Dale just shook his finger at you.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that was a threat to me as I don't want to go out there and somebody write me a ticket, maybe. It may be a threat today too, to.
And he did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. I don't know why we got away from that, you know, after Dale retired.
Due to law enforcement itself, you have to go to academy, you have to.
Well, okay, can you deputize a person though without
I think
a
Rob.
firearm?
Rob and.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
question of Brad and Rob.
Mm-hmm.
What it take to do that, but you know, there's gonna be people that are just gonna abuse the system until they get a ticket.
Right.
Take the permit away,
Yeah.
peel it off the vehicle right there on the spot.
I can't be a judge and jury. You gotta get it, you got it.
So I know, I guess that's.
Well, where's the ticket's gonna go then? That's the next thing. Is it gonna go to district court, or is it gonna go to a municipal court, which we don't have, we're not in a municipality out there. So you have to have that arrangement made up too, Ken.
Yeah, I don't, that's what I said, I don't know all the hoops he has to
Yeah.
jump through. You know, I guess that's up to the sheriff and county council.
I think so.
To determine that, and, you know, maybe that's not something you wanna do, but it just seems like that's, you know, we can't have a policeman out there full-time.
I think the discussion should be to pursue advice from county council.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And maybe Rob, and just see what our options are. I don't want anybody to be ticket happy, but it still should have some teeth.
No. But it has to have a little teeth, or people will just snub it.
So, all right, Isaac, you said there was 2 things. What's the second?
Yeah, and then the second thing is we have been going around and doing our dock inspections And I've gone through and I've called everybody that has needed to get their dock repaired, as the protocol states. And I've discussed this, I think, a little bit last year, and I'm starting to see an even bigger push this year. But both from my standpoint and a lot of the dock owners' standpoint, if we could get, and this is a question for Brad, and I know that, if we could get something in writing as far as liability between the county and the dock owner, and something in paper for the dock owners to sign every year about our code, what they need to keep the dock up to, what they're responsible for, what the county is responsible for. Because a lot of dock owners have been asking the question, what if someone's down there and they cause damage, or what if someone's down there and they get hurt? And as of now, as far as I know, we have nothing in writing that states those answers.
So that'd be like a dock recertification and waiver of liability for the dock owner?
Correct.
Same question's been asked before, and we answered it, but I can't tell you the answer when Susan was the county attorney. So I know it's been addressed, but I don't know what the answer is. I think.
Okay, and I was gonna say, I think it was Steve. I have a folder here with a lot of stuff that I think Steve had written up, maybe, but nothing that would get a dock owner's signature, or something that they have to sign saying that they agree to the terms, or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Because there's a few dock owners that have put up gates and things like that. They don't say keep off, but it just seems like if we could get something figured out that we could get signed on both parties, so they know exactly who's responsible for what they can and cannot do.
They put a gate up so somebody cannot get on that dock?
Well, and so the way it is as of now, Randy, there's a couple that have docks that they're open, they're accessible, they don't have a padlock or anything on them.
Okay.
But last year I had an issue with a guy putting up a sign that said private property keep off, and I spoke with him about it, and he ended up moving the sign for me, but he did say, well, I don't want to remove this if someone's going to come down here and tear it up, or someone's going to come down here and get hurt, and it's my responsibility. And so that was kind of what started the whole push for this kind of thing.
Okay, so that's another item for Brad. Isaac, I got two more things, but I want to make sure that everybody, is ready to move past the. Okay. The update on the heated dock.
Yes.
How far out are they?
So Jonah, I just spoke with Ben a couple of days ago. The company that he is ordering the floats from supposedly has now reopened. They've been shut down because they were deemed a non-essential company during this whole COVID closure. Ben said that they have called him and they are reopening, and that they will be shipping the floats in 2 to 3 weeks. And this was at the conversation I had with Ben last week.
Okay.
So the framework is done. He sent me pictures, and actually I was talking to Ben. I think I'm gonna try to go over there and see for myself what has been done so far this week. I'm gonna call him as soon as we get out of here, but I wanna go over there and see it and talk to him and kind of see, a timeline, because the conversation I had with him last week was, I know this COVID stuff has kind of messed everything up for everybody. But originally, Memorial Day weekend was supposed to be when it was finished, and I still haven't seen anything out here yet. And so that was a conversation we had, And, you know, he told me, you know, completely understands my frustration along with a lot of people out here that use the dock. And he told me, you know, that's where he's at, that he has all the other materials ready to go. The framework's done. He's been waiting on these floats. So I'm going to try to make it over there this week, just to, you know, talk to him and look at everything for myself. And I can confirm that once I do.
Take a picture so we can all see.
Okay, I can do that.
Also, just an update in case the board is wondering on the payment of that. The county paid half of that, you know, the fee up front, to the tune of $109,000, I think. And then Isaac encumbered the balance, and we did issue a check out, but we have held that second half payment until the project is
Right,
complete.
we don't
So,
want to disperse that.
so just so you know, we paid half of it.
Yeah.
There's a,
You might remind the guy time is of the essence at this point.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Well,
you have something else there, Isaac, what you were about to say?
no, I was just gonna say that that's kind of the last conversation I had with Ben was kind of letting him know that, you know, it's kind of getting to the point where I need to start seeing something, because originally Memorial Weekend was when the project was supposed to be finished. And like I said, I know COVID and everything has slowed things down, but at the same time, I'm still feeling like the project is a lot farther behind than it should be.
Yeah. Okay, then the last thing I got is the item I spoke to you about on 77 where the runoff.
Yes.
Did you get any feedback from KDHE or anything that?
Yeah, Jonah. So I went and I took pictures from that area, and I followed up as far as I could. There's a big gate and it was closed off with pictures, and I emailed that over to KDHE. They ended up calling me back. This was kind of the same situation. It was during the time of all of this virus stuff. He told me that they weren't going out and doing any field investigations at the time unless it was an absolute immediate emergency. He said he does think that this could be something that they look into. And just this past rain, I went back out there and took some more pictures, and I emailed him, and he said that they will be coming out to look at this. He said by the pictures and Google Earth and following the trail, that he does think it is something that could be an issue as far as runoff coming into the lake. And so they will be investigating that. He said our next runoff event, they will be out here. And I guess along those same lines is the blue-green algae in the lake this year. We started seeing it in the water Memorial Day weekend, and so I contacted KDHE, and they still aren't doing, I guess, field investigations at the time. She said that they will be out here today. Last week they didn't come out, so they put us under a provisional watch, which means that it looks like that we've seen it, but until that they can come out and test for themselves, it stays as a provisional watch. So we should have an update on that this afternoon. And so yeah, both of those things they will be out here doing an investigation on.
Okay. It just the watch came out, and
yes,
I got more phone calls.
Yes. Yeah, and that was something, you know, he said it wasn't it didn't qualify as an immediate emergency, but he said it is something that he sees them addressing. Looking at the pictures I sent him along with where that water was running into and how that was eventually coming into the lake. He asked me if I could get on the property to send pictures of the stream, but there's a gate up and it said no trespassing, so I didn't pursue it too hard. I sent him a picture of the gate and everything, and he said okay. they would come out and do their investigation and see if it is something that needs to be changed.
Have anything else? All right. Well, thank you, Isaac.
Hey, absolutely, thank you.
All right, moving the meeting on to commission discussion about the recycling.
I think I put that on there, and I'm just like I said before, we know it's the right thing to do, but I just don't believe the county can continue to pay 3 times to haul the same ton of stuff off.
I guess and I'm still where I was. I'd like to see some sort of, instead of canceling it, find out a system to the biggest contributors or the contributors that help offset it, so we can keep it.
Do we know what the recycling people are doing with it? Are they just taking our money, or are they really recycling it?
No, they're recycling.
What are they doing with it?
Well, they're recycling they explained to me at the time, this, of course, this has been 2 months ago, that they were still making money on cardboard.
Okay.
But and now whether they're stockpiling the rest of it, I have no idea.
Aluminum cans.
Yeah.
The
Right,
problem
depends on how much area they've got. I've never been over there.
The problem with the recycling is the plastics. It seems like there's money in everything else, but you got to separate it, sort it, and pay for all those man hours.
Yeah. But, you know, I agree with Jonah. Recycling's a good thing, but if we're gonna continue this, you know, we may need to have some help or look at a different way that we've been doing it. I think maybe some of the Hillsborough folks are on. I don't know about anybody from Marion. You know, I just don't, I'd like to know exactly what percentage of the recycling that we're hauling to Hutchinson actually comes just from Hillsborough and Marion. Now, I know we have individuals that bring it in from, you know, the rural areas, but, you know, I'm sure that the biggest percentage of it is Hillsborough and Marion.
It's not just Hillsborough, it's a greater area of Hillsborough too. Hillsborough's, since we quit taking the recycling down to Gossel, there's the greater area of Gossel has been coming to Hillsborough and dumping their recycling.
Okay.
And Hillsborough offered that to them.
Okay.
Through this.
Yeah.
Who's picking that up, John? At Hillsborough inside the water tower?
That would be our truck.
Your truck, and then bring it right back to us?
Yeah. So they're already eating that cost of all extra. Yeah. But
you know, and I know people don't want to go through the motion of recycling and know that it's just going to the landfill anyway. I know Hillsborough's made a big investment in recycling. So, you know, I don't know if we can work together somehow, you know, so that the county doesn't have to eat the total cost of this, or.
Well, I think the last time this discussion come up, Larry and Roger both had some funding mechanisms that were being discussed. I don't think we ever finalized it because the EO basically stated that we couldn't cancel it anyway.
Right.
So I don't know if it went anywhere. I mean, it probably would take a follow-up to see if they have any ideas or plans to help us out and make this whole thing work.
Can we get one of the Hillsborough officials to chime in?
Yeah, we have Lou and Larry both on.
That's me.
Would you like to hear?
If one of them would like to chime in, that would be great.
Either Lou or Larry, would you like to voice your thoughts on this issue?
Lou.
Hey,
I
Lou.
was kind of hoping that Larry would jump on because he's probably got more of the facts and figures for this. So, yeah, as you stated, Jonah, we have made a big investment, which obviously you were part of when you were on the city council here for recycling. But more than that, we have very strong desire of our citizenry, and not just Hillsborough citizenry, but as you stated earlier, the surrounding area, because we have people from outside of Hillsborough, not just Gossel, hauling their recycling into our larger collector bins. But you know, we made an investment in equipment and the truck and all the collection bins to do what we believe and what we believe the citizens of Marion County, to be honest, believe that we should be recycling. And so, you know, we want to see recycling continue. We think it's beneficial, not just for Hillsborough and Marion, but for the county at large. And we want to see that the county commission continue to support recycling in Marion County. Now, if you're telling me that budget-wise, there's just no way you can afford it, you know, I guess I'd have to see something that tells me that that's the case. But if that's the fact, then we need to sit down and figure out how to make it work, because having it go away is not conducive to anyone when we can work together cooperatively to make it happen. So, you know, if you're saying you can't afford it, we've got to pony up even more money than we're already investing, then we're open to that discussion, because I will tell you, in Hillsborough, we are not going to quit recycling, period.
Thank you, Lou.
Larry?
Mr. Chairman, I think Lou very eloquently described our situation here. I think that if you folks are looking at trying to do some sort of cost share, we ought to have a conversation between the county, Marion and Hillsborough. You know, certainly, as Mayor Lou just described, we've got a lot of citizens of this county that are using our facilities that are not residents of the city of Hillsborough who are paying for this. So, you know, there's probably some ways that we can work this out. But certainly, I would encourage, you know, don't walk away from recycling, because it's one of the things that you know, as you all have learned over the years, that you know, the protection of this earth that we have is important, and it is a way of, you know, taking care of, you know, our future.
Yes, I would be in favor of it.
Maybe we need to have a work session type event where we could bring some input, Hillsborough and Marion, or
just have a think tank and how to make this work.
Well, I wouldn't mind getting into a think tank and trying to work with them, but if we're gonna do that, I would like to see it done very quickly, because we are going into budget time soon, and I would need to know that, because I am personally concerned about the budget. So I would want that information readily available to me before I make my decision.
Yeah,
So I don't want that to drag out, because otherwise I'm thinking of the budget.
yeah,
overall.
we need to look at the budget and see what kind of impact that's gonna have on a transfer station.
But I would certainly think that there would be a cost share. I just don't see how the county can continue paying the whole thing. I mean, as much as we would all like it, I just don't see where we possibly can. But I may be wrong. But I want to be serious about it.
I've been on this ever since we started it, and and I've seen it go from single stream to multi-stream all in one, and it's very great for that to happen. And when everybody's getting paid a little bit back to do it, it was very good to do that. We always lost some money no matter what. You never did that, because I've never seen the percentage of people up above 30–35% participation. I'd say percentage, that's pretty high speaking from what I'm hearing. 25% is more like it or less, the participation in recycling. That's not a great number that I like, because I was at the same place like Hillsborough is now, trying to keep their participation up so that it was a good thing. And I counted trash cans and stuff back when I was on the council in Peabody and mayor, of people that was participating and doing the things. So, and from the recyclers, I've never heard too much over 30% at the most. So that's sort of a figure that I stick by, figuring on participation. Even though when you go down to the Gossel area, I've seen people just like Jonah and Lou's talking about, they pretty avid about it and really supported it. So their participation down there may be a little higher than that 30%. But in the cities, I still say that it's under 30%, as far as I can see. That's something to think about.
Well, I don't recycle. Everybody knows I don't recycle.
Well,
I mean,
but
trash.
It hasn't been pushed out in the country to availability like it was in our cities. I mean, Peabody, Marion, and Hillsborough now Hillsborough and Marion's come a long ways. I mean, and I don't want to see them go back to where, but I think it's just a budget issue of money, how we can pay for it, and not the other 70% that don't do it. They're paying the same trash fee that anybody else is for their household. So just trying to make it fair for everybody.
How do you do that, Brad?
I don't know the answer.
Well, I think we just need to set a time for a work session and make sure that everyone that's invested in this is participating.
When did we want to do that?
Soon.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably not this week. I've got 2 days taken this week.
You want to work it into the afternoon of the 8th, or we want
I'm Tuesday and Wednesday all day. No, Wednesday and Thursday, excuse me. I'm Wednesday and Thursday
for the afternoon of the 8th.
Afternoon of the 8th would be next Monday. That'd be after the commission.
Jonah?
After.
Yeah.
Jonah, this is Lou. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Larry and I will not be available the first 3 days of next week.
Okay.
We're involved with KPP meetings in Wichita.
Okay.
And so we would not be available on the 8th.
Okay.
We could be available this week. I could make myself available probably Wednesday afternoon next week, but Monday, Tuesday are not good days.
Do you foresee any problems with more of a virtual type work session, or do we need to actually meet in person?
Either way is fine.
Okay. So, with it being virtual, I could be much more flexible. So I don't know if we want to do it Friday or want to do it.
Lou, does a virtual meeting help you flex your schedule up a little bit? Anything?
Not on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Not on Monday or Tuesday. Yeah.
And then
But otherwise, yeah, sure. You bet, Randy.
okay. Or we could. I know we want to do it quick, so that's why I didn't bring it up. We'll go 15th. The afternoon of the 15th.
What day?
The 15th. It'd be the next Monday. So it'd be not next Monday, but the following Monday.
Probably be good.
The afternoon, that way.
Budget the 18th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We could have information from the transfer station.
Well, we got the bill for the last
Yeah, we get their bills.
month was $3,000.
We'll need to look at the budget and see where we're at.
Recycling up or down the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Since you did away with the holding area, is that cut it down.
Well, and you've also done away with the bins around the county being
Yeah.
hauled
Yeah.
in
Right.
from the small
So
communities.
those have been reduced.
That probably dictates more about when they're
Because
gonna
I
have to
know
haul a
I
load.
quit recycling because we don't have the holding area. Because again,
The truck, I think, is what they're putting in, filling the
Yeah,
truck up.
yeah, they're putting it on Friday
Friday
morning
morning, yeah.
till 12:30.
But you have to be there.
Yeah.
I'm a Saturday guy.
I've got a nice recycling can out in front of my house. It's picked up for me, so.
Well, we have the luxury in our town to be in that, and like Hillsboro's invested, I don't know if Marion has in carts yet, but that's a lot of investment in carts and stuff. I mean, they can be used for trash too, but yet, I don't know whether, let's say a year, it takes a year to come back. I mean, project the future, what happens if it never comes back? China don't open up, that's where it was all going, was China for a while.
Definitely with plastics.
Plastics.
Yeah, so
Or do we not take plastic, just take cardboard?
maybe to that
I mean, that
effect or
cut down
something.
on tonnage.
Maybe that's a good idea, yeah.
Save us
That
money.
kind of stuff needs to be thought of.
The way I see making recycling work, and some of the stuff that I've seen is bringing it back more to a local deal where somebody is actually handling it for your community, for your area, and that's revitalizing some of the recycling processes, making it profitable.
I mean, aluminum cans and plastic bottles should go to the Boy Scouts so they can make money. Because
Girl Scouts out there too, right?
Which
organizations.
what day do we want to do? I mean, 15th afternoon? Yeah.
Fun.
Afternoon of the 15th, does that work for, we'll have to check with Roger, I don't see him on here.
That works for Hillsborough.
Okay. All right, does it work for everybody in here? Yeah. Okay. All right, that's what we will plan on.
So 1 o'clock.
Yeah, 1 o'clock on the 15th. Participate either virtually or in person.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks, Lee.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your consideration, and we look forward to coming up with a collaborative solution that works.
I'm sure we'll make something work as long as we want to. So, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other discussion about? Hearing none, we'll move on to Ricky Roberts and see what's going on with this board.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're still hopeful that we'll get a July 1, 2020 approval, but we do not know that for certain yet. That's not a guarantee. But they have asked us to continue to work that direction. And if so, then the next step is the Board of Commissioners will appoint 4 individuals to serve on the District Extension Council's governing board. Initially, this board will be on an interim basis until the final approval is made, at which time they would be the full governing body. And so we've come up with 4 recommendations for you, and why we think they would be good or qualified. But certainly you can appoint, whomever you want.
I read through the names, and
All of these people have been contacted, and they are willing to serve. I will state that, okay?
All have experience.
yeah, no, I don't see any problem with these recommendations at all.
Correct.
Thank you. I think they would all be very, very good for us.
So do we need to make a motion to approve these recommendations?
Yes. That's what I would like. You may want to state in the motion that they will be interim until the final approval is given by the Attorney General, and then they will be the full governing body, okay?
Well, they'd be the,
They'd be interim, would we have to bring it back up to make them permanent?
I don't think so,
No,
but just on your motion,
bring it back.
on the full, they wouldn't be the full governing body because obviously the other county will have members also. But
I'm sorry.
That's,
Yeah.
I think the wording there.
They would be
Okay, so,
that is correct. Because Dixie County is also going to appoint four, that is correct.
right,
But you could say interim appointment until the board is, or until the district is
final approval
approved,
is given.
and then, I don't know what the proper wording is, Brad, I guess.
Just interim appointments, and I think the rest of that will take care of itself.
I will make a motion to, on behalf of the recommendation on the 4 individuals listed.
Let's mention it.
Lyman Adams, Roger Will, Bill Fish, Brad Van Acker, all be appointed by the Marion County Commission to the Chisholm Trail Extension District Board for the interim basis until the AG ruling. That would allow them to be permanently seated.
Second.
Got a second by Kent. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you, guys. That's really all I have for now.
Thank you, Ricky. You guys.
You did a good job, Ricky.
Thanks.
Very good people there.
Yeah.
Get on the board.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to move into public comments. Is there any, I haven't seen the chat box light up. Is there anybody out in the hall? Really? Nobody's out there.
Amazing.
I might want to check again,
Yeah.
because it's been a couple minutes since you came in.
Still empty.
Okay.
And he just threw it back out of place.
Couldn't you exercise?
Hearing none.
I'm out of breath now.
I'm going to close the public comments. Then going to commission comments. At this time, I think we need to ask Brad a few questions on stuff that has come up. The getting deputized for Isaac, dock waivers and conditions between the county and owners. Sure, I am missing something.
Say those 3 again, deputized for Isaac, is that what you said?
Yeah, deputized for Isaac.
County Lake.
Boat docks
And then the boat docks, the owner
agreement.
Owner agreement with the county.
Insurance wise and responsibility.
Indemnification and the
Liabilities.
liability waiver.
I wonder if the third thing was the tax, what's the land bank? Is that,
Forming a Marion
Okay.
County land bank.
I don't know if everyone still has all that material. That's been about a year since I passed all that out, and I had a draft of the land bank agreement. I can go ahead and bring that back in, and have you all take a look at it again.
In preparation for.
Got these tax sales coming up.
Sure.
Oh, no, I think that's a Susan one. Whether or not your question on,
Minimum bid, oh,
Pick up and go
have
to
it
the
on
next
sale, put a minimum bid on now,
I
and
think
then it
that's-
sell.
I think-
We can sell it again
I think
next
that's up to
month.
Susan.
Susan can answer is whether she's got any provision for that certificate.
She said, no.
Yeah.
And then-
That's what I would expect.
and, anything on the lot in Hillsborough?
No, not a word. I did call again, left a message for Josh. He did leave one back for me, same response, that he hadn't heard back from them yet. And again, I think it's kind of back to if anyone wants to make contact with the city officials, just to see, okay, is there something that's holding this up? Because it sounded like last week when we talked about it, we're more interested right now in moving than they are.
Yeah.
You know, he kind of said it feels like it's just kind of on hold.
Yeah,
And
no,
he
I
hasn't.
will-
See, that's crazy, because I thought it was a plan.
Yeah, I just, what I knew was that he was gonna draft it and get it to me. That was and that was that expectation all this time, that we had that conversation 2 weeks ago now. And then it was mentioned here, so I went ahead and called the office again. And nothing had changed, and he hadn't heard any more from anybody.
Well, I will press it as long as there is no legal issue. I know I tried to, this is the reason why I keep asking
Yep.
you, is
Yep.
because I tried to ask Josh, and then he told me I couldn't ask him.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to raise. There's nothing precluding you from, the collegial conversation with people from the city, whether it's the mayor, the council, the city administrator, or even, Ben, somebody. That's all absolutely appropriate. I don't think there's really any issue, because it's not me doing it. You guys are doing it laterally, so.
That alludes back to my question, why couldn't we come up with our own rendition and then say, hey, does that meet your guidelines?
Or at least a proposal for, kind of the general nature of it.
Yeah, I'm not talking about full-blown plans or
Yeah.
anything, just because otherwise we may just be sitting here spinning our wheels.
And it feels like there's a greater urgency from our perspective than theirs right now.
Yeah.
Well, their requirement was having a 17-foot door, which, so, I don't know if that's right.
And then I think
size.
the overall-
It's something that would aesthetically match.
Exactly.
Which is,
whenever they
there's
started.
no problem.
Yeah, well, it doesn't, we just need the land
We need to know how many square feet we want
at this
to
point.
build right now.
Well, if we came up with a rendition, we
Yeah,
would know
that-
that, wouldn't we?
Yes.
Travis is on the call, he's asking if he might
Okay.
be allowed to speak.
Yeah, I didn't see him, sorry. Yeah, Travis.
Alright, as far as the rendition, Ben and Dan and I have walked out and plotted out the piece of land that would be needed. As far as what the building's gonna look like, doesn't necessarily play into the size of the lot, the area that we would need, basically deeded or leased, the legal description of that area. And again, that side of it, what's happening on the legal side, I don't know. But as far as the area that was proposed that we would build on was on Ash Street near the police department entrance, the south entrance of the police department. And we had worked through that, and that's what, to my knowledge, had marked it out, and they were gonna have a legal description for that.
Travis, do you know if there's going to be two separate ingress egress, from on the south side as well as on the west?
It would be the west and the north, as far as
Okay, over
getting
there.
onto the property.
Okay. There was something about not just footprint, but the general structural height that Josh mentioned that they were concerned about. Did that get discussed at all?
Well, Ben and I had discussed, basically we sat down and drew out what his thoughts were, what my teams are. We didn't want to go in and build a shack that they couldn't attach to, or that didn't work. I think we're a ways from that. I guess my thought is I'm not sure what they need the height for to give us the ground. I think that's an agreement that we have, and we can go from there. But
The impression
I
I
don't know,
had.
Brad,
I'm sorry.
what does that look like from the legal side?
Yeah, the impression I had was Josh was envisioning a much more comprehensive lease agreement that would include some elements of commitment on the county's part in terms of the overall, not just footprint, but the outside aesthetics of the building. I don't even mean that in terms of color or any materials, but at least height, so that they knew they were going to build onto it, what they were going to use it for, and that it wouldn't be something that would look really strange when they added onto it. That's all I can say, because that's what Josh told me.
I will go discuss it with Lou and Larry and see what's
14 foot.
what's going on.
And I think that had something to do with it.
And it depends on what kind of building. So a 14-foot door, you might need a 16-foot sidewall.
Exactly.
Right.
You know.
Or the middle building.
And we're gonna make it match the other building.
But beyond that.
And they tell us what the building's gonna look like.
Beyond that, drawing what the lease isn't rocket science. I mean, this is something that we can do as long as we can get that far.
How many square feet does he want?
Pre-engineered.
5,000 or 10,000?
Well, Travis already had a, what, a 40 by 80?
Well, that was the other location.
Correct, and then talking to Ben, he wanted 50 feet deep. To match that, that's, I don't know how necessary that is, but that's what Hillsboro's, you know, if they're gonna tell us it has to be the same. And if the height thing falls to the, again, I don't need the building that tall necessarily, but
That would increase your heating cost as well.
Yeah.
No, I'll go have a discussion.
You don't have to make the ceiling inside, just the face on. You know, in our building downtown, we got, it's 4 foot higher than what the ceiling is, it's just for cosmetic.
It's facade on the front.
Yeah.
Facade, yeah, that's it. You can make it as tall as you want to.
This wouldn't be for facade, this would be for
Function.
door.
Yep.
But,
Yeah, if they don't need a 10-foot door, that's no problem.
yeah, so I will, if I'm allowed to, I will go
Yeah,
directly.
I see nothing that precludes that. I understand why he responded that way. I would have the same issue. Ethically, we're not allowed to, I can't go approach those guys in that vein either, because they have legal counsel. But you having direct conversations with them, there's nothing that
Okay.
Well, the only thing that I can say on this whole deal is, we had to deal with every ambulance building in this county was with a fire station. I mean, that's just the way it's been. And so, what I don't want to do is tie up our commission 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years from now. I want them to be able to say, this is our building. We do, you know, somewhat what we want with it. If it's, that's all I'm asking for. I mean, because I think that I owe that to future commissioners after dealing with taking over on some of the things we've dealt with here. And Marion did a very good job with working with the county years ago. Give us that property for, I don't know what the dollar was, minimal.
It was cheap.
Minimal, so, and I appreciate Hillsboro's offered some of that already. And it's just, we want to get a building up and go with it, so. And I don't want it to look, if there's any way we can make it look somewhat what they want, I'll see if we can afford it.
And that's my point, if we can afford it.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes dealing with a 40-foot building versus a 50-foot building. 50-foot is more of a standard size, so it may not really have much more cost except for the tin. That the trusses seem to be standardized.
So much square foot more.
Yeah. So, anyway, I'll head that one up, so, but yeah, that's all I have for you, Brad, I guess.
And if you can let me know what you find out from them, I'll kind of prompt
I can work
Josh.
with you on that if you want me to.
Well, yeah, don't jump right in there too.
Well, you set something up, I can probably be there and help.
Okay.
Discussion.
And so I have a question for Brad, or something came up earlier about nepotism. And you have a department that has nepotism, right, mother-daughter. And it turns out that this particular daughter now has got a degree in the field, and it's in criminal law and so on, which is awesome. And it's in our handbook, the way I think Tina can chime in any time, that we do have as a commission the ability to adjust the nepotism laws in employment. But we don't want to open up a keg of worms, so now, because every department, you know, my son or my daughter, my uncle, whatever, is now a genius, and so he can come in and start working. And so I'm asking you, would it be wise to maybe take that provision out of our handbook? I mean, we did this one time because this department head did not hire this situation. He walked into it, and this girl did apply, and you know, so on. So we made the exception this one time, but we were concerned that and it could, you know how that goes. So it would be wise maybe to take that provision out of the handbook, that we, you know, just go by the nepotism laws, the way they are set from the state?
My initial reaction to that is no. I'd still like to see you have your own that you've articulated in there, but giving it some flexibility for this kind of purpose with an exception, and as long as we're careful about articulating what that exception is in a given circumstance and why, because I do that with a number of things in different governmental entities, whether it's a residency requirement or nepotism, those kinds of areas. Situations come up where it's in the best interest of the organization that you make an exception. You just don't want to open the floodgates on it completely. And what we have additionally at the state level is usually not as specific or as thorough as what we'll usually have in a handbook. So I almost prefer to keep it and just address it, or adjust it in there. I'll look at it.
So you can adjust it?
Yep.
Okay, if that's okay, I mean.
Diane, it's interesting you bring that up, because just what he said, and we all want that, to have the sort of the chance to do that if we have to, but at the same token, we go ahead and do that, and I'll throw a police chief that does not live in the city, lives in another county, and is a police chief of a town. So the council okayed that because of this situation, just what we're saying here. They okayed that to do that. But the citizens nowadays don't understand. They not happy. And so they've got a lot of frustration with the council because we have a police chief who lives out of town. And so this same thing can happen with whatever you just said, Diane, about other departments, father, son,
Sure,
whatever, mother, daughter, whatever. And so even though it's there and we can do it and we understand this is the perfect situation, but I'll warn you all.
Every situation will be the perfect situation.
Yeah, every situation is the perfect situation, and I'd have to agree with Diane on this because it causes frustration from community members that maybe was not involved or ever seen what happened when it was allowed. So then 5 years later, you come in and they take a look at, well, it's allowed here, why can't it be here? So if the council rules against it in the next situation,
then we're all got egg on our face.
And having been through it many, many times, that's the, if I have a governing body that wants that exception capability, that flexibility, and inevitably it usually comes up, then exactly what I suggested in answering Diane's question is what I always advocate that you do, which is really a detailed paper trail of why, how, and when. Because if you don't do that, that's exactly what you get. I remember 7, 8 years ago, you did this, this, and this, so you got to do it for me.
Yeah.
And these are not necessarily precedential, but people will argue the equities of that, and to avoid having to deal with that for months on end, we try to create something that shows, no, this was done in a really unique set of circumstances. What you're presenting doesn't rise to the same level. Agree or disagree, we can at least give you an answer of why we did it, and it's logical.
And it comes back to what's in the best interest of the county.
That's it.
I mean, look how many county employees we have that live outside the county, quite a few.
And I have run into it over and over and over again, and life changes. And these are dynamic entities, and things go on, and you come up and confronted with something. It seems like it has a really simple answer to you, but it comes back to haunt somebody later on in life. So I've just learned, you create the policy or you create the requirement, stick with it as much as you can. But if you've got that and it's in your best interest to do it, fine, but then we'll develop the general exception with very specific rulings as to why we did what we did, so that if it comes back later, each case is so different that it's difficult for someone then to say, well, you got to do it in this case because you did it in this one.
Well, we need that flexibility in a rural county.
Given the difficulty of retention and getting good qualified employees, I face that all the time, so that question comes up a lot.
Yeah. Whether the test for how much heart somebody has.
That's right.
When I was on the school board years ago, it was a hot button issue.
Oh, always. Yeah. And in this kind of a setting, it's going to be frequent, because there are, people settle here, second generation settles here, they go out and get educated and decide, gee, I'd like to work in that position, and those positions don't come along every day, and now you're going to tell me I can't because, well, especially if there's somebody you'd like to have, it makes it hard, I understand.
Any other commission comments? I had just, I know it's been short, but on the CDBG, if anybody had heard, if any of the other communities had gotten theirs through, because I think we would need to hold off until we were sure that which areas got them or didn't get them before we have SCED process anything.
I had already let Michelle know, because just, it hasn't been mentioned in a meeting or anything. I got notification after our last meeting that it looks like the county has been approved for our CDBG grant that we applied for. And I had reached out to all the, to Hillsborough and Marion and Peabody and asked them to please let me know as soon as they know whether they have received approval or not. And I had already let Michelle know that we need to kind of see what happens with the other agencies before we're ready to be able to move forward, because that will help us to understand what our abilities are as far as who we are able to assist.
It changes our per capita.
Correct. And so I do know that, let's see, the days have all blurred together.
Today's Monday.
Yeah, I know what today is. Mondays are usually pretty easy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I do know that Marion and Peabody, I believe, submitted on the same day and probably within 30 minutes of each other. And I'm not sure what day Hillsborough submitted, so.
So do we have any other specifics other than we think we have it?
Well, the specifics that we have are that Michelle got onto the Department of Commerce site and saw Marion County had been approved. And then she contacted me, and I had a voicemail after the commission meeting. So that's all I know at this point. And there'll be some specific, for all the organizations that are funded, Department of Commerce will have some specific requirements that they will push out to us as far as certain aspects of what we do.
Because I know you'll probably start getting some calls on it.
I have been having some all
already
along.
on the street that
I've been
may be available.
I've been trying to hit up some of the ones that are outside of city limits, because I don't know, you know, until they get approved or not approved.
Ag is.
Yeah.
Well,
Is that gonna require a board for that?
No,
Okay.
you'll have.
For our county, I mean, for us to decide or anything?
We approved a grant administrator.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't quite approve that part.
Yeah, you did.
Did we?
Mhm.
The 15,000?
No. You approved a grant administrator, but there are still some questions that you're going to have to come up. She's gonna need to know some specifics once we have more information about how the board wants that all to work. You'll have to decide, you know, what the ranking system will be and what the maximum amounts will be, you know.
Depends on how many other people get it, stuff like that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So there'll be some clarifying things that will have to be decided by the commission for her to be able to, for SCED to be able to administer that program for us. But we're a little bit too early for you all to make those decisions until we know, you know, whether the other communities were awarded.
And Brad, can I ask you, do you have any ideas or suggestions what we might consider into some of those things? And I think one of the things that I have a question on is how we will determine who receives and how much. And the reason I ask that is because I know some people have already applied or thought of applied and are on the impression it's first come, first served, so they're already there. And if that's not the way you do it, see, then that's not fair to those that haven't heard it yet. And then the same thing is how people hear it and in what order do they hear it? Because that also gives them the advantage of getting in there and refer. I mean, how do we do that? It seems to me like it's complicated, so you're not, you know, I don't want in my district run out to my favorite businesses first. You know, I mean, I don't want that to be a criterion.
I believe in your application, I mean, Michelle had asked for a little bit of clarification, whether it be first come, first serve, or whether you would have some sort of a ranking. And I'm fairly certain that at that time we said there would be some sort of a ranking.
You did.
And there was a suggestion of having a specific opening and closing date for applications. So
yeah, and I was wondering about if you would give some suggestions as to what those rankings would be, rather than the first come, first serve.
And after that meeting I was on at the time, and I noted, you know, level the playing field, is what I wrote down. And did some calling already just to see what is being suggested, potentially as ways that that can be done, and also what other counties are doing. So I'll try to see if I can come up with some things.
Because that does seem to be some questions I can ask.
And it's valid, because you're always gonna have someone, no different than that PPP thing. First time out of the gates, you had people getting millions, and the small businesses it was intended for really got left in the dust.
Exactly.
The second time around, they got more, still got people sitting on their waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very easy to do with people that are plugged in versus those that are not. And how do you get this information out to them, and how do we make sure that the people who desperately need it at least have a shot? So I get it.
But yeah, you can't sit around too long, because you want
No.
an application to get in rather quickly.
The whole function here is to distribute funds, and, you know, on a need basis as much as you can, and get it into the economy. Try to save as many folks from dire straits as you can.
That's
Right, and
the
I've been-
ranking system that I liked was the first people that didn't qualify for a PPP, you know, bring them to the top of the list, because they've had no support, they've got no help. So, and then you sort through them first.
And when you brought agriculture up, some of them has had it offered already, or anybody know that yet?
That's a tough one. There are some programs out there, but they're very specific in nature. And I don't even know all the ins and outs of that. I should, but do not. And it's valid in terms of, the one thing you can easily do in this kind of a setting is have someone list as an element of their application, what, if any, other sources of assistance have you already received, and from where?
But, you know, with this, you can't use it for payroll anyway.
Right.
Like a PPP.
Okay. This is more of
Right.
Inventory and stuff.
Inventory, yeah.
Inventory,
Right,
that sort of
right,
thing.
business with.
Well, I believe you can use it for payroll because it's an operating expense, but you can't duplicate. So if you've gotten,
If you've
No,
gotten
somewhere else.
PPP,
correct,
that's what I said, if you've gotten PPP and you get this, you can't use it for payroll.
right, that's correct.
Because you couldn't buy inventory with PPP.
Right.
Just
You could pay your rent and your
payroll
utilities, and that was
expenses.
basically it.
That was to retain employees.
Yeah.
75% in order for you to get the grant, agreed upon, and be released from any obligation as a loan. 75% in the 2-month period, well, they're going to extend it, but in that 60 days had to be paid. They would be able to prove that.
And just to clarify, when we were in the application process, anybody that contacted me, I was just letting them know, we're applying for it in a first come, first serve as the county. But if we're awarded, then there will have to be some more details, developed at that time as far as how they'd be awarded. I didn't tell anyone that called me particularly that it's on first come, first served, so.
Has the state had any information out about when further details will be released, or?
Well, this was just on Friday,
Yeah.
Today's Monday, so.
Yeah, there's still people trying to get their paperwork in.
Yes.
Right. It's basically when they run out of money for the ones who have submitted everything. And there's no ranking system, excuse me, for the
Right.
grant itself, for
Right.
the entities applying. It's just basically if you get all your stuff in and it's complete, and the order of time that it took, that you were in line, so.
All I gotta say is what was pulled off was very impressive. It was very well. Dina did a very, very good job.
Well, I was excited to hear. Yeah, that was,
I haven't heard any of the surrounding counties being approved yet. So
I don't know.
I haven't heard of anybody else being
It's
a
not who you are until you know.
That's right.
Hey, we're getting it all.
We're not getting it all.
Okay. Well, any other commission comments? Any other concerns? All right.
Yeah.
I will.
Brad got your points.
Nothing else today.
Nothing out of this too.
Well, nothing that's publishable at this particular moment, but we'll see.
All right. Then I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second. Got a second by Randy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Didn't need to ask for discussion. I always do though.
Make